guys, are you studying for the SAT and maybe you've got a couple of months to get in gear and you're wondering what's the best way to plan out your time so that you can get a totally awesome score? If so, in this video, I'm going to go through my 8-week plan for prepping for the SAT, whether it's the summertime and you're chilling out or whether it's during the school year or whenever it is for you. If you want to know where did I come up with this plan? Well, I am a private tutor. I teach students SAT prep, and I have been teaching for over a decade and a half. I have a student who scored perfectly on the SAT, and I also am taking this in part from our pacing guide that we use with our online course, which is the best SAT prep course ever. If you are on our online course, I recommend that you check out that pacing guide because it's more specific to our particular course. And in this video, I'm going to talk just a little bit more generally. So whether you're on an online course or whether you're self-studying with books or whether you have a private tutor or whatever it is, this is like a general kind of guideline for how to make sure that you cover your bases over the course of about 8 weeks. We also have ACT math books if you happen to be taking the ACT, or you can follow us totally for free at supertutortv.com/subscribe. We have a mailing list. We also have an Instagram, a Facebook, and a Twitter page, and you can follow us there. Okay, let's talk 8-week study plan. I like to say that 8 weeks is like a good amount of time for a lot of students to prep for the SAT. It's a reasonable amount of time. I mean, certainly there's people who prep for longer and there's people who prep for shorter, but it's a good stab at it, at least for your first try, to see how you do and see if you're satisfied with that. I usually ask students to give at least 5 to 12 hours a week. Obviously, you can kind of adjust it to your schedule. If you want to do it over 16 weeks, you can do half that time. And you can also skip around or just do some parts of it if you don't have time to do all of it. We have a blog post that types all this out for you. So if you want to print it out and put it on your bulletin board in your house and use it as kind of a guideline for yourself, you can do that there. Okay, week one. Let's start with week one. So week one, what I like to do usually the first week with my students, with my private students, is one, I like to make sure that they have some test prep basics under their belt. A great way to do that is with our YouTube videos. A lot of my test prep basics I've already put in YouTube videos right here on our YouTube channel. So you can kind of spend a week just like, pummeling through my YouTube channel tips. And that's a great way to start kind of getting your head in the game. I know some offhand that you might enjoy are how to get a perfect score on the SAT, self-study game plan, math hacks, reading tips, writing tips, just like a few of those general videos. Dip your feet in, get to know the test a little bit, get to know some of the basic big strategies, and that's going to help you in your prep. The other thing that I always like to do with my students up front is to get them on a practice test, get a baseline score. Where do you get a practice test? Well, we link out to them from our resources page, supertutortv.com/resources. You can find that on the web, and then link out to the official College Board tests. And I would say take a practice PSAT or SAT, whatever floats your boat. Use a bubble sheet, time it. Boom, week one, done. Let's talk about week two. Week two, I like to take that initial test and break it down, okay? So this is like diagnostic week. We really want to figure out what is it that you need to work on, and this test that you took is going to be a great way to do that. What do you do when you go over your test? Well, if you have me in video form, I'll go over it with you. But otherwise, what you want to do is you want to try to figure out what kind of questions you missed. And you can do that by looking at each question, like in the writing and language section, for example, and trying to say, like, what kind of question are you? Is it commas, right? What's going on in all the answer choices? Is it a bunch of different placement of commas? Is it semicolons and colons? What is it that you didn't understand? And then write that down on a list, okay? Same thing with math. What are you missing? Is it exponents? Is it triangles? Is it SOHCAHTOA? Is it a graph problem? Is it a scatterplots problem? And if you don't know exactly what it's called, some places that you can look is Khan Academy for the math has all the math like subsections listed out. Granted, their titles are really confusing and kind of hard to follow, but that's one place you can look. One tool that you guys might find helpful is we have videos that pair with PSAT number 1 that explain all of the skills that you need to solve every problem on PSAT number 1. And those are available on our online course as part of the free trial, but they're also available on a secret page on our website. And to find that secret page, if you go to the blog for this video, we will include a link to that secret page. And so if you take PSAT number 1, I will categorize for you all of the math questions as we go over them together. So that's the goal. The goal is to make a big list of what you missed. Now I'm going to tell you the 2 sections you want to focus on are math and writing and language, because those are content oriented. What do we mean by content oriented? That means that you're working on skills that you memorize. You have to know how to use a comma, for example, to get a good score on the SAT. You have to know exponent rules. Those are things that you memorize. Okay, so when I say content-oriented, they are based on skills or knowledge that you memorize, and that's stuff that you can straight up study, learn, and be done. Okay, when it comes to the reading section, it's a little bit more complicated. You're gonna have to just do some soul searching and ask yourself some questions like, why am I getting things wrong? Do I have trouble with timing? How do I feel about understanding the passage? Am I getting things wrong because I don't know where to go? Definitely go over everything that you missed and try to understand, why did I miss this? How do I get it right the next time? So there's two parts of this process. One, you're going over everything you missed, and the other thing you're doing is you're making a giant to-do list of stuff you need to work on. Okay, cool. The other thing that I recommend that you do in week 2 is gather your materials that you're going to use to prep. What kind of study materials could those be? Well, it depends on your budget, right? It could be online resources that are paid. It could be books, and it could be just stuff online because you don't have money for books. You can use Khan Academy. I would warn you, I love Khan Academy for the math. I do not love Khan Academy for the grammar. The individual sections in the grammar that are like on commas or on colons or whatever, they're way too easy. They're way easier than the actual test. So I find that students who've practiced with those don't necessarily improve to the level that they wish they would, and they're not necessarily the best spend of your time. I always recommend books from independent private tutors. Those are always my favorite. We have an SAT book review video where I go through some of those independent tutors. So if you want to know more about like how to pick out books, that might be a good thing to check out in week 2. But in general too, if you get one of those books, you can start to work through it and you can see what kind of questions there are, and then you can compare the chapters in that book to the questions that you missed. And this is a bit of a process. It's a bit involved if you don't have a tutor or a tool like our online course, right? It's a little bit more legwork, but you can still do it even if you're self-prepping. You just have to kind of gather all your materials and then get them out and try to match them up. And the goal is to not waste time as you prep and just to identify the things that you're not getting and then to work on those things so maybe you don't have to do the whole grammar book. Now that being said, if in the writing and language section you're missing more than say 15 questions or so, you probably should do a grammar book or a grammar prep series or a grammar class of some sort, front to back, okay? So that means you should go through every grammar rule basically if you're missing more than about 15 questions is my recommendation. The other tip is work through at least 20% of that to-do list this week because you're gonna have a lot of things to do on that writing, language, and math to-do list. You're gonna have grammar tips, you're gonna have math areas that you need to review. So make sure you start working through those areas as you can. I like to say, try to do a lesson on it and then try to drill it down. Whether it's from a book or free on Khan Academy, whatever you're using, that's what you've got to do, okay? Number 3, week 3, reading focus week. So the other thing that I like to do with my students is have a week where we like really dig into reading. Reading is one of those things that's about habit building more than content. So to work on reading, you've got to really wrap your brain around how does the SAT work? What are the strategies that I need to know? All that kind of good stuff. So I like to take a week where we really focus on the reading. What I would advise you to do during reading focus week is watch all the reading tip videos you can get your hands on. I probably have at least like 6 of them on my YouTube channel somewhere. You can also seek out reading tips from other places. Again, is there a blog online, right? Erica Meltzer has a blog and some of it's totally free. She gives out free advice, so you can check that out. You can check out books from your library, your local library that have tips on the reading section, like how do I approach it? How do I map passages? How do I do stuff like that? You can also get on places like Reddit and look for advice from people who've done really well in the test and see what they have to say. So even if you don't have a budget, there are ways to seek out reading tips. Then I want you guys to try a reading section untimed. One of the things that a lot of my students struggle with is they guess. And you've probably felt that sensation like, I don't know, I'm just gonna guess. But there's merit in going really slow and fighting for the answer because you learn how the test works. So early on in the process, especially with reading, I like to say, forget about time. Just do a reading section, take all the time in the world, but fight for the answer. Don't ever guess. Fight, 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 fight until you figure it out, until it clicks. And then you also want to learn the rules of the test. Like, what are the rules of the College Board? How does the College Board operate? Then the other thing you can do this week, try to work through a little bit more of that math and writing and language, maybe 10% of your to-do list, maybe just a couple of hours on that. The other thing you can do super reading week is program your calculator. I know it's not reading. It's kind of mindless in terms of the math, but it also can totally help your math score. Okay, let's talk about week 4, practice, test, and review. So finally, you've done all this work. You've sort of figured out all the stuff you've got to work on for math and writing and language, and you've started working through that. In week 3, we're focusing on reading. Now you're going to pull all that knowledge together, and you're going to take a whole practice test. This week, I sometimes like to do an untimed practice test, depending on who you are, and depending on how much you used to guess. If you're guessing a lot, I like to do it untimed with the idea that you need to stop guessing, and you need to start fighting for the answer and feeling what that feels like. So that's what I like to do in week 4. Then you're going to review your practice test. Again, going over all your answers. If you're on our online course, you can go to the associated videos, or if you have the College Board explanations, if you don't have our course, there's like written out explanations, right, that you can download from the College Board. Again, that's available from supertutortv.com/resources. You also need to keep working through your math and writing and language list of things to learn in whatever medium you're learning those from. Week 5, get a watch. Week 5, I like to call pacing week. By about halfway through your prep, you should start to be thinking about how fast you're going. Okay, so we spent some time slowing down, and now it's time to speed up. Before you get into this process, again, it's good to research what are all the ideas in terms of pacing strategies. What are the ways that I can take this? You can either do that through a book or through research online. We even have some free pacing tip videos on our YouTube channel. But think about pacing, do some reconnaissance, get some input from outside voices on how you should be addressing that, and then you can do some pacing drills on your own. The other thing you can do is finish out your grammar and math subject material that you still have lists from those 2 practice tests you've taken. What did you get wrong? How can you improve on those areas? Keep working through those areas if you've still got some work to do. Week 6 and 7 are practice test weeks. By the time I'm ramping toward that final 8th week of a prep plan of this length, I want my students to be definitely taking practice tests. So you're taking them time, you're using a bubble sheet, and then you're going over all your answers. And then I also am repeating this process of diagnosing any last areas that I need to work on, tweaking those, making sure I get in there and review any tips or any ideas that I'm not so certain of. And finally, in week 8, take another practice test, review it, and then I like to do something called super review. And super review, all that means is take all those practice tests that you took, don't throw them out, by the way, keep them, and then quickly go through all of them and try to remember, why did I get this wrong? How can I get it right the next time? What are the mistakes that you made in the past? How can you prevent them tomorrow on the SAT? Brush up on any outstanding elements of grammar or math that you might feel a little bit shaky on, and then go crush the SAT. And that's it. Good luck to you guys. I hope you guys found it helpful and this helps you get the score that you're looking for. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.